There it is. There's the little timer. We made it. Welcome. Happy Wednesday and all that good stuff. Let me get my information right here. Okay. Welcome to the Stand Out and Be Seen podcast. We're going to empower entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants to break through the noise, take the guesswork out of identifying and targeting our ideal clients, and connect with more qualified leads.
Good morning. I'm Ansa Goodbar, your guide to developing a fearless branding voice and strategic marketing plan. Together, Monty and I will unpack proven strategies, share insider insights, and dive deep into what it takes to truly stand out in today's crowded marketplace. That was a mouthful for me this morning, Monty.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, our tech is working, so as far as we know, so we're gonna roll with it. So it doesn't matter if you're here to elevate your personal brand, or if you're just growing your business, or you simply want to find some motivation to take that next step. You're in the right place. Today, we're going to be discussing the invisible audience.
Yes, we are. And so for those of you who maybe don't have our book yet, The Ideal Client Map, we're going to be talking about a topic that we discuss in the book. And I think the whole idea of creating an avatar and creating that ideal client is really counterintuitive to most of the people that we've worked with over the years. That when people come to us, they have this perception that they can be a client to anybody and everybody, or anybody or everybody could be their client. Sorry, I said that backwards. In fact, I was having a conversation with a colleague today, and one of his clients sells herbal supplements. And so he believes that anybody and everybody can be his client because anybody and everybody can take an herbal supplement. And while that is true, anybody or everybody could, the reality of it is not anybody and everybody will. And so his client decided, well, I'll target men. All men can take my supplement and benefit from it. Again, while that's true, that still is not narrowing down the avatar characteristics far enough to create language that would get that particular guy interested in what his product is. And so I was thinking today, as we talk about the invisible audience and why neglecting to really define who your audience is and why they need your product or service would be a great topic for us, because it continues to come up despite how commonplace building a persona or an avatar is in the industry today. So let's dive in. Let's talk about this a little bit, Monty.
Let's do that. I love what you were saying there. There's a couple of points that I think that, well, you said there's a commonplace, and so the uncommon part is what we want to point out.
Right.
And it's from what you were saying, it sounds like, oh, well, you need to narrow it down to one. That you should only be selling to one, and that is not the point. The point is that you can only talk to one person at a time effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking before the show, and I was telling you about how I was feeling my efforts were divided. So it's similar. I was describing how I was putting energy into several projects and not getting any of them done, and where I needed to focus in and take all the energy from some of the projects, put them to the side, and put more energy into one project.
Right.
Communicating with people is similar.
It is.
If you are trying to market and communicate to a wide variety of people, you are putting a little bit of energy into each type of person. And so therefore, you can only get a little bit of reaction out. You only put a little bit of energy in, a little bit of reaction. So if we can take away, say, all right, we're not going to talk to those people right now. let's talk just to this type of person so that I can spend all my energy
Mhm.
and get some kind of reaction from it, some kind of resonation, some kind of engagement.
Right.
And that's where identifying. Now, again, oh, well, Nike sells to everybody. Well, they have an audience that is more preferred, but
Mhm.
even within that audience,
Right.
they have campaigns.
They do. And, I think Nike is such a great example. My granddaughter is playing basketball, and her first game was Monday night, and so I was looking at all the shoes of the teams that were playing, and so we had about 50 girls between both teams, and it was interesting because I am not a Nike customer, and as one would look at Nike being such a powerful brand, I would have thought that a large portion of the athletes, on the court were wearing Nike shoes, but they weren't. They were wearing Adidas. They were wearing Under Armour, um, and they were wearing Brooks, which was very interesting to me because those brands are not as prevalent in the marketplace as Nike. And the Nike swoosh, the tagline "Just Do It," it's out there. Everybody recognizes it. Everybody knows it. But that doesn't mean that everybody who recognizes and knows the brand is going to be your ideal customer.
Right. And they've identified that. The side point that I was going for is the fact that they have campaigns, they have teams, they have lots of people doing this.
They
And
do.
so therefore they can focus on more than one avatar at a time
Right.
because they have these people focusing on that one and these people focusing on that one. As a solopreneur
Mhm.
or someone with a limited team,
Right.
you need to focus on one at a time in that circumstance.
Mhm.
So it's not a you can't sell to anybody else. It's a let me focus on this.
It's not a one size fits all proposition.
Because
I
even the one person that you define
Mhm.
after they have consumed said product and or service,
Mhm.
if it worked,
Right.
they will have evolved and
Right.
therefore they are no longer that same person. So if you want them to continue being your customer, you will need to redefine them further in their journey.
Mhm.
And now you have two avatars of the same person
Right. Right.
at different points in the journey.
Mhm.
Maybe you can't help them in the next stage. Maybe you don't need to define that. Maybe you are. This is where I help people, and once they move on, they fly away. And
Mhm.
that's maybe your business model, and
Mhm.
therefore that's the point. You need part of it is you need to understand yourself. You need to understand your business model so that you can find the right people to put into it. In your supplement example, there's like, okay, I can sell to everybody, but if I can only focus so much energy and time into something, who would I prefer to sell to? Who's going to buy the most, spend the most money? Who's going to praise the product the most?
Mhm.
So let me find the people who are going to benefit the most. Let me
Right.
find the people who are going to benefit the most that are in the right bracket, who
Mhm.
are concerned about their health, who
Mhm.
are watching what they eat.
Right.
Or maybe the people who want to be doing those things but aren't. And so supplements are the easy way to get into it.
Exactly.
So there's all these different ways of, hey, how can I talk to these different types of people who respond in different types of ways rather than trying to make some kind of spiel that covers it all.
Mhm. I think that that's a really important point because in my conversation with this colleague today, we were talking about the difference between digital marketing and face to face. So if you're driving a business that's purely digital, there's some things that you can't necessarily collect at the point of sale. And we were talking about my granddaughter's books. We've sold plenty of books online. We don't have any data about who those clients are. But when we wrote the book, we looked at we're writing for teen girls. But when you're looking at the purchase, the avatar is not the teen girl because she probably doesn't have money, being a young teen, to go and purchase the book herself. And so we made the assumption that the person that we needed to market to would be the mom, that the mom would be the one to be buying books. We did some live events at some expos. 80% of our customers who bought books for their daughters were dads. So, how we would market to a dad is very different than the way we would market to a mom. Should we market to both? Absolutely. But what we learned is maybe we need to market more for dads since they were the ones buying books for their daughters. In the conversation with this colleague today, he said, "That makes perfect sense to me." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because dads have a hard time finding gifts for their daughters after they're kind of out of that preschool play, dollhouse, dress up kind of area. What do we buy for them once they hit that preteen area? Books to help them build their self esteem or build their confidence are a perfect fit." And I was like, "Why didn't I think of that?" Because I'm a woman.
That,
I
and
didn't have
as
that.
a father, not knowing the same mode of operation,
Right?
and not being able to relate of, Dad, I'm having these problems, and oh well, maybe you should do this, Dad. It's like, oh well, if I can get something that has more power and knowledge, so I can see
Mhm.
where that. But a second thought on that also is marketing to the kids in the way that they ask for the parents
Right.
to buy the thing. So even though the parent's the one with the money, if
Right.
the parent doesn't know the benefit or see the value, so
Right.
therefore it's almost a two-sided thing. You need to get the kid excited about, this is how it's going to help me. This is what it's going to do for me. And
Mhm.
why you need to buy it for me, Dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's great that you have that comparison, the digital sales versus the live event, to
Right.
see that comparison
Exactly.
firsthand.
It was so helpful for us because I worked in events for many, many years at a faith-based nonprofit, and we did conferences for families who had teens. And so part of the event was the family all together, and then we had breakouts where we spoke just to the parents, and then we had speakers for the teen boys and then for the teen girls separately. And what we had found through our research is that moms were the ones that drug their families to these conferences. And so that's where I base my knowledge. It's the mom who's looking for growth opportunities. It's the mom that's looking for solutions for these problems in her family. And so it was really eye opening to me to see that it isn't only just the moms, that really the dads are making a lot of those decisions, at least in our focus group, from the events that we did. And so it was a learning, and it was information that we couldn't capture through digital sales. And it wasn't information, again, because of the outlook that we had. We didn't even consider asking men these questions. We were targeting women as we were, gathering data for how we were going to put together our marketing. And so it really opened up a whole nother stream of income for her books, as we gain this new insight. And so being really clear, as we talk about, why is this relevant to our listeners today? Why is it relevant to people who are marketing in their business? Because messaging matters is really the simple answer. Um, and as we're looking at, big brands like Nike or small brands like my granddaughter and her book business, it's that common ground between both of them. You need to know who you're talking to. Before, we hopped online today, we were talking about the difference between a result and an outcome. Why does that matter?
Yeah, that was from Jim, our beloved mentor Jim,
Yeah.
and his event this morning I attended, and he went through that nice description of the difference between a result and an outcome, and his definition was really spot on. You got what it is and what it means, and in our ideal client map, we have that concept built in with a which means portion, and that's the tie together. That's the part about you're talking to them, and that's the reason you need to identify your ideal client that you're talking to. Your ideal client that if you did only cater to one person, who would you want it to be? And what's beautiful about that is if you were to do that, what if you did do that? What if you defined that person and then it turned out that you got so many of those customers that you didn't have time or want to cater to anybody else?
Mhm.
Would that be such a bad thing? If that effort got you the result that you wanted? Would
Right.
the outcome be what you wanted it to be? It's like,
Mhm.
oh wow, I didn't even have to develop all these other avatars or ideal clients. I found the one.
Mhm.
Or potentially it could go the other way. Maybe you do define the one and you start working with them and you figure out, wait a second, there's something about this that there's a negative side of this. This is not the ideal client. I don't want another 100 of these people. If I had to help just this person, I'd go crazy. That's good to know. That's good to know and say, well, let me define a different avatar then that doesn't have that quality so I can attract not that quality.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that you touched on a really important point when we're talking about attracting our ideal client. We're also setting up filters for people to self select out of our ecosystem. And many of the clients that I've worked with over the years have had the perception that they're missing out on business because all these people are choosing another path. But the truth of the matter is that those were never your client anyway. Those could have been the tire kickers, those could have been the people looking for free resources, the looky loos who were just curious, but they were never going to buy your product. And I'm going to kind of go back to the example of this supplement salesperson. Um, I am interested in supplements. I see the value in supplements, but I have a huge sensitivity. Hold on, I'm so sorry. And I can't take them. I've tried taking them in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, with food, without food, you name it. Pardon me. They come back up. I cannot digest them. And so while I'm very interested in them, I'm never going to be a purchaser of the product. I have found that a green drink is a better solution for me than a pill of some sort. Monty, I'm having dry throat syndrome today.
It's probably because it's so cold where you're at.
Oh my goodness, it's freezing. And it's only going to get worse from what I hear.
Oh boy, bundle up.
I know. I'm gonna
Well,
say
that's true what you're saying. Now, that's only true if you have developed your avatar and are speaking to that audience, that specific audience. When you have done that, you have created the filter. If you
right.
have not done that, then you're doing the 1950s marketing technique of just casting the wide net out there and pulling in whatever sticks in the net, and then figuring out, I got to pull this one out of the net and toss it back. I don't want those. This is a swordfish. I need tuna.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is a shark. This is horrible. He's eating my tuna, and I want to filter that out. I actually don't want to attract those. So there's that. I love the filtering Because it's easy to say, oh, well, they weren't meant for you anyway, but that's only true if you have established who is meant for you.
Right. Because you really want to be able to connect with the people who are ready to make that purchase, that they're really looking for your service. You don't want to, attract the looky-loos or the tire kickers. And
You
there's
need,
always going to
yeah.
be some of them. We're never going to eliminate all of them. But by being really clear on who it is that we want to serve, we can create messaging that's going to attract those people that really have that desire to get that result or to get that outcome. And that's where I think, why does it matter comes into the conversation, because that's really the emotional hook that people are going to feel compelled to take action with.
Here's something that we have never discussed. This thought just popped in my head. This is a very interesting angle on this idea. If you have a bunch of customers, wouldn't you like it if those customers gave you 5-star reviews and told their friends about you and said good things and had warm, fuzzy feelings whenever your name came up?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are just anybody's my customer, do you really want anybody? Do you want the guy that says, it works, it was okay?
Right.
So there's this whole other aspect about filtering and targeting specific people. Of why would you target specific people? So that way you can get the good review. You want to find those people that's like, yes, they will use my product and benefit. Not only that, if I can identify they're the type of personality that raves about stuff, because there's some people who just don't talk about stuff. And although that's fine, I'm happy to help them.
Mm-hmm.
If I get to choose between this guy who's not going to tell anyone how cool I am and this person who's going to tell everybody, including their grandmother who doesn't care,
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing the person who's going to tell the grandmother.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was just an interesting tidbit. Not even in the book. There it is, coming out live.
A little bonus chapter there. So let's talk about this, since our topic today comes straight up out of our book. Let's talk about the framework or the process that the Ideal Map takes people through as we're doing a build out of an avatar, because the process that you created that we jointly use is revolutionary in the marketplace, and nobody else is doing it the way we're doing it. And I don't think anyone else is getting the highly defined avatar that we're able to produce with people. It seems like there's the microwave option. Ask a couple questions, spit out, this beautiful definition. And then there's like the crock pot option. And I think we're kind of more of a crock pot, where we dive a little bit deeper to get something that's far more robust than a lot of people are creating. So why don't you walk us through the methodology that you created?
Well, let's start the step back of what you were describing with the microwave option. And, why did we get to that point?
Mm-hmm.
Because throughout history, this whole ideal client avatar thing is not new. It's not a digital age idea. This is a long-term marketing concept, strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the digital age has just evolved it and changed it and given us tools to do things faster and easier.
Right.
And that's where we're now risking and in danger of skipping past, rushing the process. Shout out to Carl Oline. This is one of those places that you don't want to rush this process.
Right.
And it's a great tool to answer some questions and have something spit out. In fact, there are some tools out there that do a fantastic job at doing that. And then you have the resources to put it in the crock pot. So it's kind of this multi-stage thing. It's like the prep work. These tools are able to prep up everything and get them ready. But if you really want to make a good meal,
Mhm.
You got to take the time and go through all the steps. You can't turn the oven up to 450
Right.
when it's supposed to be 350 and say, well, it'll be done sooner.
Mhm.
It seems like it should work that way. If you're a mathematician, well, I shouldn't say mathematician. If you're using basic math, you would think that it's the higher maths that look at all the other aspects, which is
Right.
what the avatar is. What our method of the avatar is doing is looking at all of these other aspects.
Mhm.
So it's no longer. I won't even go. Let me. I'll stay back in time a little bit. Here's the tools. We're in the microwave. Everybody has access to these tools.
Mhm.
The microwave is a specific resource. There's only so much it can do.
Right.
And so the more people using it, the more times means it's coming out with similar stuff.
Mhm.
Everybody's getting similar stuff because it doesn't have the capability to make a wide variety of stuff.
Right.
So the next stage for us was, hey, now we've got this not blank page. That's great. That's what we wanted all along, is to not start from scratch.
Mhm.
So now let's take that and massage it and work it through. So we have all these stages of not only identifying their pains and their objections and all these other trigger points and all those things, but lining them up on a track
Mhm.
so that they are congruent. Because
Right.
it's, again, this is similar to, hey, it's all these things. Now we're going to take the concept of talking to the wide audience, narrow it down to one person. Now we're in the one person, and they have a wide variety of things they're
Mhm.
thinking about, they're talking about, and
Right.
they carry different weights. And so we could impact more by figuring out which ones carry more weight and
Mhm.
focus in instead of talking about, oh, it does this and it does this and it does this and it does this and it does this. That's great when you're at the, what am I getting for the amount of money I'm spending? But
Right.
before that, when you're just trying to get them to be interested and take their attention, you're wanting to focus in on the things that have the most impact.
Mhm.
And the way to do that is to go through their thought process, the
Right.
thought track, and line out all those things and be congruent, not only as the pain and the objection and the problem and the question and everything about that topic. They all lined up, but do they also go to the outcome?
Mhm.
Do they support the outcome of the person? And
Right.
there's the framework. It's this, tie it back through, not just, hey, do these things fit? Do
Mhm.
these things fit in, and then tie back through and play nicely? And then we can go through this any way we want and talk about it with them. Hey,
Right.
it's painful. That's right. Why is it painful? It brings up this question. Oh man, but there's this objection. Okay. But we could also come in and say, oh man, do you feel like there's this objection? It causes this pain, huh? Well, do you ask this question? But it's still congruent, all on the same track.
Right. So at the end of the day, I mean, why does that matter? For a client who is struggling with their marketing message not landing, why does it matter what you just said?
That is the framework to find the heavyweight topics.
Mhm.
So that way you can get engagement and conversions on what you are trying to do. Now, I was coaching with someone the other day, and they didn't really realize um, conversions doesn't mean a sale.
Mhm. That's right.
So it depends on your marketing campaign. Are you trying to get more followers? Are you trying to get more likes? Are you trying to get more comments?
Mhm.
Are you trying to get more visits to your website? Those
Mhm.
are all different things, and those will affect the way you talk to somebody
Right.
and the level of engagement that you want.
Mhm.
A follow is a less engaging type of a thing than a go visit my website.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. So, as we're talking about pain points and our ideal avatar, we're talking directly to the clients and the listeners that we have today. So let's close out the show with 3 pieces of advice that we could give them as they're looking at tightening up their messaging and really identifying who their ideal client is. What are 3 pieces of advice that you could leave them with today?
Wow. That's awesome. You're going to make me work because I'm going to come up with 3 new things off the top of my head based on what we've been talking about and the framework involved. And I'd say the first thing is that the biggest mistake I see when someone is actually going through the steps of defining an ideal client and putting it down somewhere, whether it's on paper or digital, they want to group pains and objections and outcomes, and they want to group all those different things together. And that is where we can't have any connectivity and make sure that we're on the same thought track, because there's many thought tracks. And we like groups of 3. So 3 is a great place to start. And then you can go from there. But you find the 3 heavyweights and figure out that thought track. And so you need to take your groups and divide them out into a thought track group that has one of everything in it and tie them all together. So that was like 2 in 1. The first one was don't group them all into the same categories. The second one is create categories that are thought tracks so that things can be congruent and line up about the same topic. The example and the reason for that is you don't want to be talking about how terrible this one aspect of something is and then end up with how painful this other aspect is.
Right.
And even though it may be true, and even though they may resonate with each thing, we have no synergy here. We have no connectivity. It's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that rather than a, oh yeah, of everything together. And then third, I see that a lot of people are worried too much about demographics. Now, they are important because they help dictate the thought track process. But the details of demographics themselves don't matter directly. It doesn't matter if they're 42 or 49 or 87. There are exceptions. A supplement person would say if you're 87, you take different supplements than if you're 22. But there's always exceptions to everything. But there's my overlying gist of it all.
Well, I think that those are really powerful. And, just from you and I creating a new avatar for an upcoming program that we're creating, we followed the exact same steps that you outlined today. And, as many times as we do this together and as many times as we do this with clients, there is always this aha moment when we get to the end and the output of what we're creating. And I think that the beauty of the method of using the map is it forces us to think in a linear and logical way to get the best outcome. And going back to why does that matter? Well, it matters because the way you define the avatar tracks determines the way we're going to talk to that avatar, to connect with them on that emotional level, to help them feel seen, heard, and understood, and to make them feel like they're a part of our tribe, that, Anza and Monty get us. They know our pain. They've walked our steps. They've got the solution. They can help me get from point A to point B. They can help me help my clients get from point A to point B. And I think that that's the beauty of your system is it doesn't matter if you're selling a product or a service, identifying the avatar for either of those is the same. And don't rush it. It takes time. It takes mental fortitude to get through the process to be able to come up with something really valuable for you. It's a tool, like any other business tool to help you grow your business. So I think this was a great conversation today, to dive a little bit deeper into this whole idea of not everyone is your ideal client, and that's okay. And taking the time to really define who that person is matters.
And even when your audience is large,
Hmm.
by defining down and doing marketing campaigns specifically to specific ones,
Right.
you are able to resonate on a much higher level.
Right. And for those who do a lot of email marketing or want to, it's all about segmenting your audience, segmenting your avatars into different categories to send out that messaging that will resonate with each of them. So,
Ooh, we gotta chalk that up for a whole different show, different topic of how identifying your ideal client and segmenting email campaigns, the similarities and differences.
well, I guess we have next week's topic. We will
We'll see.
dive a little deeper because that's it's a perfect segue for us. And
Right.
I know with the clients that I've worked with over the years, it's an area that they have struggled with. How do I do it? Why should I do it? Why does it matter? Isn't that a whole lot more work for me? How am I going to get an ROI from those efforts? I mean, all of those questions come up. So I think we're in for an exciting show next week.
Yeah. Well,
So,
if you are interested in the ideal client map that we have been talking about, you can get the book at go.mapyouridealclient.com. The PDF version, we're just going to give you the book. You can get a taste of what we're talking about and the framework involved and a copy of the map itself, and check it out for yourself.
awesome. Well, I think this is a great point to say thanks for sticking with us through this half hour. And we hope that this episode gave you some tools and inspiration to help you grow your influence and make a lasting impact in your business.
And don't forget, if you want to hear more, subscribe, leave a comment, ask a question, go to go.mapyouridealclient.com.
Oh, listen, I need to listen. Which way do I go? That way.
And pick up your free PDF version of that book, of our book that led us into the podcast and tells our little story.
Exactly.
So until next time, everyone, stay unwhelmed.
Stay unwhelmed. Let's do it.
All right.
See you next week.
Have a good one.